What's up, my friends? Welcome to Chaos Live, my fun little live stream to hang out with you guys, answer some questions, all that fun stuff. They can be army related, they can be non-army related, just no politics, of course. So, what's happening? We got some awesome notification platoon individuals. We got T-Dog with Melanchi, we got Jay Lee, we got Tout Police, Cody, Time for Games, Plasma, US Army, 9/11, Goofy, Holly Hand Grenade, Doug. We got Nicholas, Christina, Hannah, John, Evie's in here. We got Alan, Caliber 556, Joe E, and Raw. Yeah, I got pretty much most of the people. Something along those lines. Awesome, guys. Welcome. Thanks for coming to hang out. We'll answer some questions, all that kind of fun stuff. If you were not aware, we did have a little contest kind of going on with the Instagram. And earlier this afternoon, I messaged the winner on Instagram to let him know that he won, and that was Ted the Metalhead. So he was the random comment that I picked. I simply just had my Amazon dot just pick a random number between the amount of comments that I had and whatever that number was. I scrolled through the comments to find that specific one. I think it was like 40 or 41, or I forget what the number was. I found that comment, checked to make sure that person was following me. They were, so that was the winner. And that's how it basically ended up working out with something along those lines. And also make sure it was a legit comment. Like if it was a comment where it was just like someone saying first or something, wild. As long as it was a legit comment and if someone followed me, that was the winner. And in that case, that was the winner. So congratulations to you, man. I already messaged him on Instagram, so later this week I'll get that package sent out to him, and he'll be the winner. And then maybe later down the road we'll do some more giveaways. We'll see how things kind of go and all that stuff. So if you guys have questions, just feel free to drop them in the live chat, and we'll do the best that I can. Who's ready for one amazing stream? I guess I'm ready. Sure. How's the weekend? It's great. People are doing some countdowns. Awesome. What's up, John? How's it going? It's a badass opener. I love it. Well, thank you. Is it Al? All smiles? Oh, all smiles, not Al. But thank you. I appreciate that. And then some people agreeing. Of course, gotta agree. Great intro. What MOS would you recommend, 31 Bravo or 68 Whiskey? People always ask, like lately I've gotten quite a few messages of people like wanting to know like what MOS would I recommend someone to do in the Army and all that stuff. And that's a tough one. I can't recommend a good MOS to you because I don't know what you're interested in. You should pick something that, maybe a career that you would want to do, something that would be fun for you to do as far as a job, and something you want to learn. Maybe something you want to do in the Army, and if the Army life isn't for you, then something you could transition to in the civilian side that you would enjoy. So that's always my best bet. So whether that is a 68 Whiskey or 31 Bravo, that's really on you. So you have to kind of decide which one of those two MOSs is the best one that you would prefer as far as that kind of goes. I keep on noticing that lately OBS seems like it jumps a little bit in the video. Are you guys noticing that every once in a while where the video jumps or does some kind of weird thing in there? I mean, infantry, I love it. Well, yeah, see, and then some people just love, that kind of stuff. Infantry, maybe that's a good one to transition to law enforcement. And sometimes, you don't have to have something that directly transfers over, but, like, for example, infantry, right? The only thing you can kind of transfer that over is you still have to do more training, but doing, either security work or doing maybe law enforcement, but there's a lot of times where people do infantry in the Army and then they get out and do something completely different, and just simply having that military background is good enough to land them a good job. So sometimes that is very helpful too. Best overseas duty station? Probably Germany. I've never been stationed in Germany, but I know a lot of people that got stationed in Germany and loved it. Got to travel all over the place, right? It works a little bit differently now because it used to be back in the day, you used to be able to just use your military ID as a passport and travel around. Now they kind of want you to have orders. but it's not that hard to get a passport, right? You just get a passport and you can travel all around to a bunch of different countries that are super easy to get to from Germany. So a lot of people love being stationed in Germany. So that would probably be my recommendation, even though I've never been stationed in Germany. I've been to Germany as a tourist, but never actually stationed there or anything like that. So I enlisted in the Canadian Army and about to start boot in a couple of weeks. What would you recommend to help my feet with ruck marches? I've heard 2 socks method is good. It kind of depends on the socks. A lot of people use the method of using dress socks because they're more of a silkier kind of texture to them. Use the dress socks under your regular socks, and that's pretty helpful. Some people use like moleskin. When I did the Bataan Memorial Death March, which was a marathon long one, I used this stuff called combat tape, which was awesome. And that stuff worked really great. Some people I've heard will use like pantyhose, which is kind of the same kind of method as using the dress socks because of the texture of them, and it kind of helps keep blisters from forming. But people would wear like pantyhose kind of a thing and then put their socks over the pantyhose, and that does the same kind of a thing. But also at the same time, it also kind of keeps your legs from rubbing together so bad and chafing. So there's a lot of different little tricks, everything that people use out there. I was pretty good when I was in the Army. I really didn't have a problem with blistering that bad. But I wanted to take the precautions on this road march when I did the Bataan one, because that was the longest road march I've ever done. So I used that combat tape, and that combat tape worked great. Going into infantry, well, good luck to you. Can combat medics request to be with an infantry unit, and if so, what's the chance their request is accepted? You can't really request to go to a unit. They're gonna see what units need people and what MOSs they need and everything like that, and they're just going to stick you in those units. You can't really request a specific unit per se, so that makes things difficult, so you wouldn't really be able to do that. But you know, you can have medics in all sorts of different units. All units need a medic, so you have medics in every type of unit, so it's very possible to end up in a infantry unit kind of thing. Hey, so I plan to commission infantry through ROTC. I may be going to a school this summer as a cadet. Do you recommend airborne, air assault, sapper, or even mountain warfare? That's up to you, really. I mean, you're going through ROTC. If you're going to be an infantry individual, I guess it depends on what you're going to do. You know, then eventually you definitely want to do Ranger, get the Ranger tab, because especially with infantry, they usually look down on how, you know, like if they have officers in the infantry that haven't been to Ranger school, kind of those officers don't get treated quite the same. So I would definitely recommend doing at least Ranger. Why do people join the infantry? Like, do people do infantry because of video games and they aren't scared to die? It's just the experience that someone wants. If someone wants to do that kind of job, be a little bit in the danger and the skills that they learn, it's up to them, I guess. You had to choose combat arms MOS in the Army, what would it be? I don't know, because like I said, I don't think I necessarily would choose just because it sounds cool or anything like that. You know, I didn't do that when I joined the Army. I kind of just joined the Army because I intended only on doing short term, only 4 years and then getting out, which that didn't happen. But you know, I recommend not doing what I did and not just settling for whatever, and go and try to get into a job that you'll enjoy. If that's combat arms, then that's up to you. Like, I don't have a need for that. I don't like really want to do anything in that kind of field. Like now, if I knew like what I know now back then, I probably would have picked something maybe more on the IT side, maybe more on the video production side, something along those lines. Probably I would have done an MOS more like that, possibly. There you go. So Jay Lee offering up some help. So hit him up, I guess. If anyone has any questions about infantry, the Chaos can't answer, he might be able to help. Never know. How hard is it to become a warrant officer? I mean, it's not easy, but I don't know if it's extremely hard either. It depends on the circumstances. There's some MOSs that require, you know, you to get to a certain point in rank, either E5, E6. Most of them I've seen usually are E6. You have to get up to the rank of E6, and then you can put in a warrant officer packet and then go that way. And then if you're doing like something like pilot, then that kind of just, you know, depends on that kind of thing. Then that's a little bit different as far as how it kind of goes. What workouts will you recommend before basic? I leave in a little over a month. Push-ups, sit-ups, and run, even though there's not really a part of the physical fitness anymore, that's still a good thing to help kind of build some of that upper body strength, some of that core strength. Running a lot is really good. I always recommend doing a lot of cardio before you go to basic training to make sure that you have a lot of, just that built up kind of cardio to be able to keep up with the runs, keep up with the road marches, keep up with the smoke sessions and all the stuff that's going to happen. So a lot of cardio so you can work on building up those lungs and be good. My daughter was almost finished with MEPS and backed out before the physical due to the latest event. I don't know what that was then. Does anyone else get entertained by recent basic training videos, or is it just me? I haven't really even personally watched any recent basic training videos or anything. I know there's, like JT Suits likes reacting to Navy, basic training videos and all that kind of stuff, but I haven't really watched any really to be able to do anything like that. My great nephew is going to his permanent station. I know you are 88 Mike. You know where you'll be stationed at. You can be stationed really anywhere because they need transportation at a lot of installations. You have to move parts from one place to another place so that they have parts for fixing vehicles. You have ranges that go on for weapons qualification and training, so you have to have someone to transport that ammo out to the ranges. You have field exercises going on. You have to transport food and everything, equipment out to the field. So you can go anywhere. So as long as there's an Army installation, you can pretty much go anywhere. So there are some installations where they might have less slots than others because it's maybe not as big of a thing, but usually every installation has 88 mics in some capacity somewhere on that installation. Practice ruck marches, bro. I do that with a couple of other boots and push-ups. Yeah, that's a good one too. Ruck marches, but like I said, cardio is a really good one. But yeah, if you can run and do ruck marches and all that stuff, that'll help build it up as well. What happens if you fail a 2-mile run but get a perfect score on the push-ups and sit-ups? Doesn't matter. Now that they've gone away from that, especially like basic training AIT, you have to do the ACFT. Back at the units, you still have the push-ups, sit-ups, and 2-mile run. But regardless if it's that version of the PG test or the ACFT, you fail one of those events, you fail the whole thing. You must pass all events to be able to pass the physical test. If it's the PT test, the APFT, or the new ACFT, you have to pass every single event. Doesn't matter if on several of those events you did amazing, but one of them you failed by only a little bit. Doesn't matter. Fail the whole entire thing. You have to be able to pass every single event. Maintenance warrants is definitely E6 minimum. Yeah, there's a lot of MOSs that have E6 minimum and stuff. I've heard of a couple of MOSs where they'll allow E5s to put in for a warrant packet. But that depends on the MOS though. But yeah, a lot of them I've known usually are E6 for warrant packets to get put in for. What do you love or enjoy about the Army that made you re-enlist? I heard people do it because of the people. I did not actually re-enlist because I loved it or anything like that. I re-enlisted because I wanted to make sure that I was in a good enough situation to transition out of the Army into the civilian world. So the first time it came up, I was in Korea and I didn't feel like I was in a good enough situation. I didn't want to have to get out of the Army from Korea and try to line up a job back in the States and try to figure out where the hell I was going to live, which probably meant moving back in with my parents, and I didn't want to move back to that town. So I wasn't ready to get out, so I re-enlisted. Second time, the time when I was that contract was going to end because I re-enlisted for only 2 years. We were deploying to Iraq, so I was going to get stop-lost, which means they were going to extend my contract anyways, or I could just simply re-enlist anyways and get a bonus. So I did that, re-enlisted, got a bonus. The next time was because we came back from Iraq and they were like, well, this unit's moving to Texas, and I didn't want to go to Texas. I wanted to stay in Colorado, but I didn't have enough time left in the Army to stay in Colorado, so they were like, well, you're probably going to end up going back to Korea then, and that was going to put me back in that same situation, so I re-enlisted so that I could stay in Colorado and not move somewhere else. And then after that contract was up, I was finally in a good enough position to where I get out, didn't have anything to worry about, and was able to just get out of the Army and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't actually stay in because I loved it. I just was in the situation where I wanted to make sure I was in a good enough situation to kind of get out. Is Shark Attack really that bad? I got really lucky on mine because a lot of the drill sergeants were off. I think it was a holiday, or something. I forget what was going on. There was something going on, and so there's only like 2 or 3 drill sergeants doing the shark attack when we showed up. So there was a lot of us, so there wasn't as much one-on-one attention, drill sergeant to the soldier, because they're trying to yell at so many people that a lot of times you can kind of bypass them, and get to where you needed to go and everything like that. And as long as you weren't someone who was like standing out from the crowd and jacking stuff up, you didn't have to worry about it. But a lot of other people weren't in that lucky of a situation and had a lot of drill sergeants, so it was a lot easier for them to really kind of, get in their face and make it all stressful and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit stressful, but it's dealable. You get through it. Do I have any pets? I do. I have 2. We have 2 dogs. They're in California right now though. But we got a big dog named Clutch, and then a little dog named Zod, and then I also have a cat named Clark, which Clark is here, and then the dogs are with my girlfriend in California right now. I'll be leaving next month for boot camp as an 88 mic. Please help me with some tips to prepare. Can you do a 2-mile run in 16 minutes and 70 push-ups, 50 sit-ups? What do I need to work on? So you're gonna have to prepare for the ACFT. Watch my video on the ACFT, because the ACFT will be what you're gonna have to do in basic training in AIT. So you have to be aware of that. As far as tips for 88 mic, I mean, there's nothing like you can go practice driving trucks or anything like that. You're gonna learn all that stuff in basic training or in AIT. So as long as you go into it in good shape for basic training, have great cardio and all that stuff, then you're great. They're helpful, to help you. And then AIT, you're gonna learn all this stuff. Just make sure you pay attention, and don't screw around, and give it all your effort that you can, and then you should be good. And then just physical wise, I mean, you can kind of do some exercises to prepare you for the ACFT, because that's what you're gonna have to do when you go to basic training in AITs or ACFT, not the 2-mile run, the push-ups and sit-ups. I mean, you still have the 2-mile run, but it comes after 5 other events, and you have a different style push-up. You don't have the sit-ups anymore. How about other food in the Army? Because I heard people never eat there and buy food with their own money. It's actually not bad. I got sick of it just out of repetitiveness. I just got sick of eating in the chow hall after a while, so I stopped eating in the chow hall and started just doing my own thing. But otherwise, it's not bad food, especially sometimes it's really good food. Like when I was deployed to Iraq, we had like a specific day that was like steak and lobster and shrimp. That was pretty good. And sometimes they still do that. They even do that in the States too. We have some days where it's steak, lobster, and shrimp. Maybe only one day a week, or maybe every other week, but you still have great food like that. And then the food is just your normal food. It doesn't taste bad. I don't really have a problem with it, so I don't think it's bad food. Skip down a little bit. Does an engineer officer 12 Alpha engage in combat? No, I don't know. Usually most officers are more on the planning side. So sometimes like infantry officers they might be a part of a patrol. They could be more engaged with combat, but a lot of other officers are more on the planning side, behind the scenes. And there are situations they can find themselves in a combat situation, but it's not as, as frequent as it would be on the enlisted side, for soldiers. What is a shark attack? It's basically your first day. So Doug, you're old school. I don't know if they called it shark attack back then, but basically it's the first day of basic training. You have reception, of course, the first week, and then after reception is over, then you move from that reception battalion over to the actual basic training unit with the actual drill sergeants to do your actual basic training piece. And when you first show up to that area, that's where you might see videos and stuff like that of drill sergeants just come out and they're yelling at you, telling you, get the hell off the bus, get off the bus, get off the bus. And they're trying to just pressure the hell out of you. So they're yelling up in your face, they're yelling at you, telling you to get in formation, telling you to do something, do this or whatever. And it's just all these drill sergeants are just rushing everybody as they're getting off the buses or whatever means of transportation. Sometimes use cattle trucks. And they're just yelling at everybody to tell them get the hell off of whatever the vehicle was or whatever, and then get over into formation or do this or do that. And that's the shark attack. Everybody's just, all these drill sergeants, all of them from that unit are just rushing all of these new soldiers and telling them to do stuff, and that's what they call it. Shipping out on January 13th, 91 Mike. Well, awesome. Good luck to you. Hopefully it all works out well. Any options on bids for a new replacement for M4 in the U.S. Army? I haven't heard anything. No, I don't believe so. Advice for warrant officer candidates for flight school. I don't know a whole lot about it. I do know a friend who wanted to try to do that, and I believe you have to get some kind of recommendation from a pilot in the Army. So someone who either is or was a warrant officer pilot in the Army has to recommend you, I think. You have to get some kind of letter of recommendation from someone to go to the warrant officer candidate school for pilots, I believe. Not 100% sure on that, but I believe my buddy who was going to do that, that's what he was telling me, I think. Mostly hot dogs and hamburgers now for the chow hall food. So they have two lines usually. You have two areas of the chow hall. You have short order and main line. Main line is your more healthier food usually, as far as just having a healthier diet kind of a thing. And then your short order is essentially like the fast food. So you get like hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever kind of a thing from that line. And if you want something more healthy, then you go to main line. And then they also typically at most chow halls also have like a salad bar. So if you don't want either of those and you just want to go to a salad, then you can go over to the salad bar and just make your own salad, and you can do it that way too. And then even some of them have like sandwich bars. So if you want to go up to the sandwich bar, it's like Subway, and you just have a cook that's there, and they can throw together a sandwich for you however you want it. And sometimes some chow halls have that too. Is C35th a great engineer battalion? I have no idea. Never sweated so much than during my shark attack. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you know, it's just there to test your stress level. Unit armor and supply specialist. Are you responding to something else from earlier? Does the Army have PT every day, and at around what time does it start? It's usually 5 days a week, so usually Monday through Friday. This isn't talking about like basic training or AIT. That's usually different. That's usually almost every day for that situation. But when you're in actual first unit or whatever unit, then it's usually Monday through Friday, and it's usually at 6:30 in the morning. There's some units that flex on that time. Maybe it might start earlier, it might start a little later. It just depends. But the most common is usually 6:30 in the morning is when they start, and it usually goes for an hour. There are also some units that kind of flex beyond that. Like I had one unit where we did an hour and a half, so we did PT from 6:30 to 8. And then some units just have their own times or whatever, but it's usually typically around there, Monday through Friday, with the exception of a lot of units will do what's called sergeant's time training on Thursdays. Some units don't do this though, but if they have sergeant's time training, then they usually have some other kind of physical activity that they're doing in the morning before they do a bunch of training for the day. Something like a road march. You might do like a road march in the morning, like really early in the morning though, maybe like start at like 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and do this road march and then start your training for the rest of the morning or whatever. So, but yeah, typically 6:30 around that time frame is usually for about an hour and a half. Favorite cadence? I don't really like cadence that much. I actually felt always weird. Thanks for joining the Chaos Army. Was it Cobalt Block Bros or something like that? So I never really liked cadences. I always felt weird about singing and stuff like that. So I usually just pretended to go along with the cadence. But I don't think I really had one. If I gotta pass up burgers and the defect, life ain't worth living. Yeah. Well, sometimes the burgers are kind of plain-ish. They're really basic sometimes. The ones in the chow hall. It just depends though. Type of weapons does 91 Bravo shoot at basic training, and when they get to their unit, I could not tell you because I was not a 91 Bravo, so I would not too sure on that. Chaos, we should shoot a video together sometimes and do a Q&A, possibly. Not opposed to working with other people, but it just depends on what you're doing. So, like, I've had people before, they want to do videos with me or want me to do a video with them or whatever like that. And then I go to the YouTube channel and they haven't made videos in like a year, or they've made like 3 videos in the last several months. So it depends. I usually have to kind of gauge that based on, you know, if you're someone who's really active and actually putting out content on YouTube, then sure, I'm not against it. But if you're someone who's like once in a blue moon and you're just hoping that you can, you know, get the support from another, you know, larger YouTube channel to try to push more people to you, then I don't want to necessarily do that. But if you're someone who's actually putting in the effort and grinding on YouTube, then yeah, I'm cool with it. A choir hall I once went to also had stir fry. Good times. Hey Chris, what motorcycle did you ride on base? Did I ever ride my motorcycle? I used to have a motorcycle back in the day. I don't know where you're getting that from. Have you seen something old where I used to have a motorcycle and you knew that? But I don't know if I ever mentioned that. But I used to have a motorcycle. It was a Honda CBR 600, right? I think that's what it was. And then it got stolen from me though, from this apartment that I used to live in. But I don't think I ever took it on base though. I don't think so. I think I used to ride it around the neighborhood where my apartment was, and then just did a couple little fun rides with some friends and stuff like that. But I wasn't really that good at riding it at the time. I was just as I was starting to get really comfortable with riding a street bike. That's when it got stolen, because my past experience had always been from dirt bikes, and it kind of was a different kind of feel riding a street bike compared to a dirt bike. A street bike, I feel like you can feel. It doesn't feel like you have as much grip as like when you're riding a dirt bike. So that was always kind of like very paranoid feeling to me. So I wasn't that confident on riding the street bike. But yeah, I don't think I ever rode it on base, but it was a Honda CBR 600 or something like that. It was really cool though. It was really decked out though. I got it from a friend who had like a awesome like carbon fiber exhaust on it. It had racing fuel injectors. The thing was way more powerful than I ever used it for. We ain't got time for sergeant's time training. I got work to do. Sometimes there's units that, it doesn't matter. They make you do that crap because they got to make sure that you maintain those basic soldier skills, like doing first aid and doing tactics. And that's kind of what the intention of sergeant's time training usually is. But yeah, there are some units that just don't do it. They're just like, screw this, I'm not doing it. And there's some other units that are really religious on it. When we did it, it was like a lot of basic soldiering skills. We did a lot of road marching. It was usually an excuse for the first sergeant to put us on a giant road march, and we'd go on some 12-mile road march or whatever for half the day or whatever it was going on, and then stopping at different stations to do some training or something. So it just depends. Sometimes you're doing weapon stuff. It just depends on what you're doing. I got chaptered out of basic training for failure to adapt. Can I get back in? It depends on a code. There's usually a code on your departure papers and all your paperwork and everything like that says whether or not you are eligible to come back in or not. Off the top of my head, I don't know that code and what to look for, but you could always check with a recruiter, because they would be able to pull up your file in the system and be able to tell if you are re-recruitable, I guess, to come back in or not. So that would kind of just depend on the code that's somewhere's on your forms. You should do questions via Snapchat videos again, or Instagram. That would be fun. Yeah, I mean, I can. That's always fun to do. I mean, I'm not against it. I'd probably be more on Instagram. I have a Snapchat, and people still follow me every now and then, but I rarely use that Snapchat. I have it, but I rarely ever use it. I definitely use Instagram a lot more than anything else. So, but yeah, I mean, it's fun to do. I like a little posting those things and doing that. There was only one line when I served my country. There's some channels that still kind of do it that way too. Weird question, how tall are you and how much do you weigh? Because I'm overweight for my height. I am 6'3" and about, I think 220-ish, 218, I don't know, somewhere around there. I weighed myself recently or anything like that, but I'm like 6'4", somewhere around there. How do you know if I have PTSD? Doctor diagnosis, probably. There's probably some psychological tests that they will do to determine that. Oh, sorry, I meant to say chow hall, not choir hall. Yeah, I thought maybe you went to some kind of cool choir that served some food. Had some stir fry at the choir. That's good times. Remember when I got my first letter from my mom? I bawled like a baby when we had to sleep. Yeah, I mean, it can be emotional, especially, people who have families. I remember, people receiving letters with photos and stuff like that from like their wife and their kids and everything like that. And, if that's their first time being away from family, sometimes it can be really rough on a person. So it just a lot of times depends on people's situations, what their past was kind of like and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, it can be rough, and you just got to stay motivated and push through it and know that, after all this is over with, you get to hang out with them again. And try getting a letter from your son with scribbling drawings everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, there's people that they'd get like photos or drawings or little letters from their kids, and that's rough. That's rough. You miss the hell out of your family. Hey Chris, what is it? Whenever someone was killed in combat, did you have any ceremony for them before the body was sent back stateside? If so, what things take place? What happens? Taps, flag lowering. Never had anybody in my unit. There was people that were killed when I was on the deployments, but it was never anybody from my unit, I don't think. I don't remember for sure, but a lot of times they would do the ceremonies back home, back at the States. They would do all that stuff. And I went to a couple of those where something happened, either a soldier got killed in a car accident or something like that, and they usually do something at the chapel with a photo of them, and you have the boots with the rifle and the dog tags hanging off of the rifle and stuff. I don't remember ever doing one in Iraq though. And then they will do like taps outside. Like I remember we were inside of the chapel, and you could hear the gunshots going off outside for them doing the 21 gun salute, and then they play taps inside the chapel. So yeah, they have a lot of different ceremony kind of styles and stuff. But yeah, usually you do something if you have like a soldier from your unit that kind of passes away and stuff. Timothy, thanks for subscribing and joining the Chaos Army. Can't do basic soldier skills with broke weapons. No, yeah, if you have broke weapons, then that sucks. What MOS would a person get if they got an ASVAB waiver? It just depends. They don't do a lot of ASVAB waivers for the most part. There's only a very few, and that's sometimes when they have recruiters. They have recruiting stations that are really low on their quotas, and they really have to try to up their numbers. So they do stuff like that. Can you do a video on PSYOPs or civil affairs? Yeah, most likely. Civil affairs probably at some point. I'm sure I'll definitely do PSYOPs. I have a friend who's now gone back into the Army and the reserves for PSYOPs, and he was going to do PSYOPs on active duty. Which, fun note, if you're curious, active duty, to go PSYOPs, you have a selection course you have to go through, and then a Q course to get qualified. My buddy, who is going back in to do PSYOPs, he went through the selection course, got selected, but before he went to his Q course, he wanted to do this foreign airborne jump, and on that foreign airborne jump, he got injured, so then he couldn't go to the Q course, and then ended up a little bit later getting out of the Army because of his injury and stuff, but or not because of his injury, but just because he wanted to get out, I guess. But he ended up getting out, so he didn't go to the Q course. So now he's going into the reserves for PSYOPs, and the reserves actually do not require you to go through the selection course or the Q course. So he's probably going to be like overqualified in his unit probably. I don't know if there's other people that maybe have done the selection course on active duty and then did PSYOPs and reserves. But fun note, if you do reserve PSYOPs, you don't have to go through the selection course or the Q course to be in PSYOPs. So I'll probably do some stuff with him once he kind of gets a little bit acclimated into his unit and starts doing some stuff with his reserve unit. Maybe do a PSYOPs video with him or something like that. I don't know. We'll see how things kind of go. But I'm sure I'll do a PSYOPs video at some point. Chaos, how's FireGuard / CQ duty in the regular Army? Well, FireGuard and CQ is two different things usually. FireGuard is usually more of a thing like you do in basic training or AIT of just roaming the halls and making sure the barracks don't catch on fire and you can pull the fire alarm if need be and stuff. CQ has the same kind of concept, but a little bit, but also more responsibilities than just that. And CQ is a 24-hour shift. You're on shift for 24 hours. And you're sitting at a desk answering a phone. It's usually depends on, like, I guess the policy for the unit. Sometimes you'll have an NCO and 2 soldiers. Sometimes just 1 NCO and 1 soldier. It just kind of depends. And then you're sitting there at the desk. Every hour or so, you have to go in. Usually at least every hour, you have to go and like do a little check of the barracks, and you go around and make sure there's no fires, make sure there's nothing like anybody snuck into the barracks or something crazy going on. And you're just kind of going through the barracks and checking that stuff out. And that's kind of essentially CQ, answering phones, stuff like that. Hey, again, Chris, do you like the ACFT over the APFT? Thanks again. Yeah, I think the ACFT is a really good kind of test of someone's kind of abilities to be able to perform in a combat situation and stuff, and physical fitness wise. But yeah, I like the ACFT. I think it's pretty good. Chris, heard that some units would do an FTX with live ammo instead of blanks. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing live ammo. The only thing closest to that is Sometimes they'll do some training pieces with sim rounds, which is kind of like these paintball kind of rounds that go inside of an M4, and they're called sim rounds. And sometimes they would use those, but usually also wore some kind of face mask so that way someone couldn't get like shot in the face and jack them up. Because those things probably hurt worse than a paintball because they're smaller, so they're actually traveling faster. Yeah, there's I've heard of that, not live rounds though necessarily. They have a live fire exercise sometimes during things. That's really controlled though. It's not like you shooting at other soldiers with live rounds. It's usually like you shooting at targets with live rounds, and it's really controlled. Do you need a car to join the Army? How does your recruiter picking you up work? You don't have to have a car to join the Army, no. The recruiter just comes and picks you up, takes you to MEPS. You just get a ride there, and then when you show up at your unit, you just either catch rides from people, use a taxi, whatever. And then if eventually you want to get a car, then you could. When you do college in the Army, do you have to do online or can you go to a community college? That depends. Most people, if you have time to even go to college, will do online if they even have time for that, because sometimes you have deadlines, you still have to meet with your projects, and if you have a field problem coming up, you might not be able to work on that project while you're in that field problem, so it really screws you over on that kind of way. The only way you can usually actually attend a community college is you can re-enlist for what's called a college option, and that allows you to basically attend college for a semester, and you'll show up. Sometimes you don't even have to do this, but most units usually want accountability still to make sure you haven't like died or gotten killed or something like that. In the meantime, but you usually show up to first formation in the morning, but don't do PT with your unit, and then they just use that as accountability to make sure you're still alive and everything. And then you go and do your thing for schooling, even if you don't have classes that day, you're supposed to use that time to study and all that stuff. And so for a whole semester, you get to do that, and that's a pretty good deal, but you usually have to re-enlist for that. And then other people, if you have the time in the evenings, you might get to take some online classes or something like that. Chris, how well is your knowledge on SFAB? Mediocre. I've worked with quite a few SFAB individuals recently, teaching them classes and stuff like that. It's still a fairly new kind of process that they use with SFAB. At first, people were just getting thrown into SFAB. If you want to go to SFAB, they did a little interview with you. Boom, you're in. But now they're starting to build up to it a little bit more elite-ish. Not as high speed as like Special Forces or anything. But now they do kind of have like a selection course-ish. It's usually done at the unit level. So it's not like how like Special Forces, you go specifically to Fort Bragg or whatever to do Special Forces training to try to get selected. SFAB is usually at that location wherever, because like we have SFAB on Fort Carson, so we have an SFAB unit here. And so some of those people who've been in SFAB for a little bit longer, they said all they did was a little interview with an NCOIC or an officer as far as what, asking them some questions and talking to them, and then decided if they were in or not. And then some of the newer people now going into SFAB, they had to do like a 12-mile road march, do a physical fitness test, and do a few other things or whatever. And then if they passed all that stuff, then they made it into SFAB. And I think they're going to probably still be modifying that and kind of working with it. So I know a little bit here and there about SFAB, not an expert or anything like that, but just some stuff from talking to a lot of different SFAB guys that I've done some training for to train them on some of the stuff that I do. Do any MOS work off base? Not really. You might have a few kind of circumstances where you could. I've seen some people like with National Guard, but that's off base anyways and stuff, but not really. There probably could be some circumstances, but it's probably not very many. Sending love from Fort Bragg. Well, thanks for coming to hang out from Fort Bragg. Fire Garden Basic is more an exercise for discipline than necessary thing. Yeah, that too as well. But also if they have someone awake, if the barracks were to catch on fire, I guess as well. When's the next live stream of Call of Duty? Saturday. Unless you want more, then I'll probably still do my Chaos Plays Games channel. I'm still kind of testing this out if this is something I want to permanently do all the time. But I have another channel called Chaos Plays Games. If you go to my main YouTube channel on the right-hand side, there's a link to it. It says Chaos Plays Games. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I play Call of Duty for a few hours on that channel. And then on this channel, I'm doing it on Saturdays. So I'm thinking maybe next week might be the determination of if I want to keep doing that channel or not, or just if I want to abandon it. and only do it on this channel on Saturdays, just once a week. But otherwise, if you're talking about on this channel, next Saturday, I'll do another Call of Duty live stream. The reservists ain't got combat MOSs. I remember. No, National Guard has 11 Bravos, but not reserves. Do you know if 19 Deltas would train camouflaging in different terrains for recon missions? Yeah, I mean, you do all sorts of stuff. That's mainly their main thing. Is most of the time they're trying not to get detected. They're trying to simply stay under the radar and observe the enemy for the most part. So, yeah, definitely. You know, I already did this one, I just asked. How difficult, hard is basic anymore? I guess it just depends on your level of physical fitness. I mean, now they especially have to do the ACFT. You know, if you're in great shape, it's, you know, probably somewhat easy, but if you're someone who's in bad shape, you have to get whipped into shape into basic training. That probably always makes it kind of tough and stuff. So, I don't know. I've been through basic training since 1999, so I can't tell you current one, you know, as far as in comparison. Sending love from New York Army National Guard. Awesome. Elite Gaming. Thanks for joining. Sending love from Fort Riley. Oh, man. You got it rough, though. Holly Hand Grenade. Fort Riley's rough, bro. Chris, Afghanistan is worse than Iraq. I guess it depends on the situations and stuff. I can't really compare it because I never deployed to Afghanistan. I only deployed to Iraq twice. So I can't give it a good comparison. There's different things that suck about each one. As far as which one's worse, I couldn't really compare. Chris, do you have a role model in the Army or otherwise? Not really. You're talking about like how some jobs have like a role model or someone who's supposed to like mentor you through the thing. I mean, I guess you can kind of in some situations think of that as like your squad leader, your team leader, or something like that. But officially in that same aspect, probably not. I guess it just depends on how you look at it. Do you know which branch has the highest budget, second and third? I have no idea as far as budget-wise. Because it says the Navy, then Army, then Air Force. I don't know how true that is. Yeah, I don't know. If I was to guess, I could see the Navy because of the ships and all the maintenance that probably goes into the ships. I would think that maybe the Air Force would be next because of all the aircrafts that you have to do maintenance on and all the repairs have to be done on that. And then I would say maybe Marines and then Army. I would almost think Army might be the lowest, but I don't know for sure. I couldn't tell you. Work with a newer vet. What a crybaby. Old school Army vet. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Are you answering something that someone said earlier? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about there, Vince. Understatement of the year, Chris. LOL, I'm sure you know these Kansas winds will cut through you. Yeah. The biggest thing I remember there was one time where it was windy and it was raining and it froze the car. Hang on, we got the girlfriend trying to FaceTime me. Let me answer this and tell her that I'm live streaming. Hi, I'm live streaming. Crazy.
Alex, say hi. Daddy's doing live video. Hi, Daddy.
Hi, baby. I'm live streaming. I'm live. You crazy.
I'm liking you.
Yeah, are you a puppy?
I just like Daddy.
Yeah.
Like him.
Yeah. You want me to FaceTime you afterwards?
You can FaceTime us afterwards.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Okay, love you.
Bye, love you.
Bye.
Crazy. You gotta answer, you know, I figured might as well. Probably something great you might miss, which in that case would have missed my daughter trying to lick the phone to say that she's a puppy. Let's see. Are there lawyers for vets or fight for 100% disability? You have what's called the VSO. And if you go to the VSO, the Veterans Service Office, they are kind of trained by the VA to try to learn the terminology, learn the kind of the ins and outs and stuff like that to help you collect up the evidence that's required for whatever you have to do, right? For upping your increase, appealing, some kind of denial, something like that. So I wouldn't say necessarily that they're dedicated to try to get you 100% disability, but trying to get you something that's reasonable, something that's maybe fair, something that's legit, because you have to have proof of these things. So you would go and talk to a VSO, make an appointment with them, and they kind of help you build your case, and then they're able to word everything in the terminology needed for the VA to understand it better, to help you have a better case, and then submit that stuff for you to the VA. And those are pretty good to work with. I've known a lot of people that have gone through VSOs, and it's been really helpful compared to just going directly to the VA and trying to do it that way, because sometimes, you know, the VA just kicks the stuff back because they're looking for certain things as proof of something, right? And so they kick it back because you don't have it, and you got to try again or appeal it or something like that. Where the VSO, that's their job, is to try to make sure that you have the evidence that you need for whatever you're trying to do, and then help you submit that properly. So I would definitely recommend looking into a local VSO and try to go that way. If I remember correctly, it was the Navy that got most funding, and the Army lost out a lot of money. Yeah, it just depends, I guess. Hi, Mrs. Chaos. People saying hi to her. About my question, how hard is basic now? A lot of new vets are just not mentally tough. It just depends. I don't know. I haven't seen really. I probably have to look at like some kind of like videos or something like that of like basic training now compared to like, you know, how it was for me and stuff like that, and kind of make a good judgment if I think, you know, current basic training is easier or harder or the same or what. I don't really know. I don't have a good comparison. Tell your girlfriend, tell your daughter and girlfriend, we all say hi nowadays. They were like saying hi for a second there. Someone told me I should write a letter to the president. I don't know if that'll do you a lot of good. We're talking about for that in relation to something, or for like the disability stuff. I don't feel like that'd be very helpful at all. I don't think there's the chance that it probably won't even get seen, and a lot of other factors in there. I would say go to a VSO, your Veteran Service Office, and they'll be able to help you. How old are you? Wow, man, just asking all these crazy questions, huh? So I don't know if I could say I'm not old, not young. I don't care if someone figures out how old I am, but I probably don't disclose it. I like to be a mystery. I like to be a mystery as far as my age, but I'm not opposed to if you found out somehow. I don't really care. What is your current job right now, and what state do you live in? And do you live in an apartment? So current job, I am a government contractor for the Mission Training Complex on Fort Carson, Colorado. I teach soldiers how to use the navigation and tracking system and reporting system known as JCR, and then the new version, JBCP. So I teach soldiers how to use that system and how to troubleshoot that system, because that's the system that is in a lot of vehicles and command talks and stuff like that for tracking movement on the battlefield, to keep situation awareness of where soldiers are at on the battlefield and reporting up enemies through spot reports and all that kind of stuff. So I teach soldiers how to use that system. So that's what I do currently. State I live in is Colorado, and I don't live in an apartment. I have a house. So I have my house that I live in. How much does a secret clearance cost usually when the military pays for it? I have no idea. I'd imagine it's probably expensive, but I don't know how much it costs. Do you ever train or work with foreign military personnel? If so, who is your favorite, and any funny stories? I've only worked with a few. I've worked with Korean, real briefly some Swiss, and then Iraqi, kind of like police and military that we were kind of helping do some stuff with. Funny stories? Not that I can think of offhand. I don't know, maybe if I thought about it, maybe I could think of something funny as far as a story. Nothing that really pops into my head right away or anything. Sometimes it's hard to get a lawyer advice through the VSO. Sometimes they're not easily available. And that just depends too. I know I've heard some people have had bad situations with their local VSO, and some people have great kind of like encounters with their local VSO. So sometimes it's just place to place is going to vary, just like anything else really. There's no guarantee that the VSO is going to be the 100% great answer, you know, to helping you with your ratings or anything with the VA, but that's a good place to start and see where it kind of leads and see how it helps out or not. If a situation ever came up, would a drill sergeant not be able to train a family member who's going through basic training while they're serving as drill sergeants? I don't know. I don't know if that's like a conflict of interest and they try to avoid that. I don't really know on that, if that's something that's allowed or not. Do you think it would be a smart thing to buy a property before joining the Army or during the Army? It's tough. I mean, before becomes a problem because you're going to get sent somewheres and then you got to leave the house behind, and are you going to rent it out? Are you going to go and have someone stay in it and still paying the mortgage? And then you have both a mortgage and rent for wherever else you're staying when you're in the Army, so that's really tough. It's even still really tough to have a house while still in the Army, because if you come up on orders or something like that and you have to go somewhere else, then you have to decide what to do with the house. Do you want to rent it out? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to have someone stay in it? Whatever you're going to do, right? So you have a lot of hard situations. I did not buy my house until after I got out of the Army. So I waited until I got out, so that way I knew I wasn't have to worry about coming out of orders for somewheres or whatever. And then I used my VA loan to purchase the house, and I did it through that way. So I did it after. That way I didn't have to worry about potentially getting moved or sent to another location and then being screwed over and having to figure out what to do with my house. Do I have a VA disability? I do. Chris, if a soldier gets severely injured outside of combat or say by accident, are they or their families still allowed to collect benefits? Yes, usually. If you're currently serving and you get in a car accident or whatever kind of a thing, yeah, it's still the same kind of situations. The only time they may have some problems with it is if like they determined that it was because you were negligent. Like if you got in the car accident because you were drinking and driving, then there might be some kind of things that maybe change inside there and all that stuff. But otherwise, yes. There are some circumstances, I guess, in there though. I got a question about 31 kilo MOS. Do you get to keep the dog after all the training and you served your time in the Army? Probably not. I don't believe so, but I could be wrong because I was not in that MOS. But from a lot of stuff I've seen, I don't think so. I don't think it works in the same way as like, say, like a law enforcement canine, where it's more of like they're living with that dog and everything like that, and they're doing that stuff. I think it's a little bit stricter on how the Army does it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I know I've seen like on Fort Carson, they have a specific place where these dogs are stay at and everything, so it's a little bit different. How likely is it to be stationed in your home state for your first duty? It depends on, I guess, where you're from and the needs of that MOS at that location. So I wouldn't say that's a guaranteed thing at all or whatever. So that really just depends. Chris, say the Soldier's Creed. I don't have it memorized. I don't even know if I had it memorized when I was in the Army. You kind of memorize it for the specific occasion of going to the board or going to something like that, or if there was something needed. But otherwise, for the most part, usually people don't have that stuff memorized a lot of times. When you were an E1 in the Army, what is the highest rank you see in your command? And do you talk to them often? You have first sergeants and company commanders and battalion commanders that you'll see, and sometimes you'll be doing work, sergeant majors, and you'll be sometimes doing work in the motor pool, and they'll be checking up on what's going on in the motor pool or wherever you're working at. And sometimes they come up to you and they talk to you. So yeah, there's times where I'd be busy working in the motor pool, and the sergeant major comes up to you and asks what's going on, what are you doing, just to kind of get a little insight as to what's happening and get some input from those younger soldiers, because sometimes the higher up NCOs and everything like that feed them a lot of bullshit to make everything sound fine and dandy, where sometimes you can get honest answers out of privates. Sometimes they do that. They go and they walk through and start talking to them. Chris, taking doggy out so in case the stream is over. Have a great night and all. Well, thanks, Evie, for giving me the heads up. We are getting close. We are going to probably be ending here pretty soon. How fast can you get E9? That depends on the MOS. There's no set kind of thing. Usually E1 through E4 does have a fairly set thing, but then past that depends on your job in the Army, because you can be in situations where you can promote pretty fast because they need people in those leaderships, like 11 Bravo, so they promote usually pretty fast. And then you have certain other people that promote slowly because they don't need a lot of people in those MOSs, especially like you have certain MOSs like, say for example, 25 uniforms for a signal to do that kind of thing. A lot of times those individuals have a hard time making first sergeant because they usually only have first sergeants that have a signal background in signal battalions and in signal units and stuff like that. So they have a little bit less of an opportunity to be able to take command of a company or a troop. So it makes it a little harder for them to make first sergeant. And a lot of other MOSs, it just depends. So there's no set answer as far as how long it takes to get to E9. It depends on the MOS, depends on the time period, depends on a lot of factors. There's no set answer. Who looks at the dream sheet and chooses where you are stationed, and do they even look at the dream sheet? They do look at the dream sheet. I actually talked to a guy recently who said that he watched my my top 5 duty stations and he saw Fort Carson as one of them, so he put Fort Carson for his stateside ones, because you usually pick an overseas one, like so many overseas ones and so many stateside duty stations, and he put Fort Carson as his first choice for stateside one, and he ended up getting it. So he got pretty lucky on that. So it usually comes down to, you put those duty stations on your dream sheet for the ones you would like to have, and if it happens to coincide with what, say you're trying to be an 11 Bravo, and it just so happens to be that Fort Carson needs a bunch of 11 Bravos or something like that, then you might get lucky and get your first choice. If your first choice is something like Hawaii or maybe something else or whatever that maybe is overstrength on that MOS, then you might not get it at all. You might get your second choice or maybe none of those choices at all and everything. When I picked it, it was like a multiple choice one. You didn't get to like pick a specific place. So you had like multiple choices of a few stations, and then you had to pick from those ones. And I think I had, for whatever reason, I don't know why, like I didn't know anything about any of the duty stations at that time, and Fort Hood was my first choice for stateside, and I think Germany was my first choice for overseas. And I didn't get any of those. I got Fort Riley, Kansas, so I didn't get anything on my dream sheet. Green to gold or ROTC and leave the military and rejoin as an officer? I guess personal preference. Green to gold is usually only something you can go into the Army and do. ROTC is going directly as an officer. I don't know, I guess personal preference as far as how you want to kind of take that path. What's a recon unit does in the Army? What does a recon army do in the Army? I don't think they have dedicated recon units. I mean, you have like I guess you have cav units that are kind of in some ways kind of like that, but a lot of things. I mean, you just have a lot of scouts and a lot of Bradleys. Hey Chris, gotta go. Have a great week and rock on. Well, thanks, Jay the Born. Probably be ending actually pretty soon. We'll probably cover a couple more questions and then ending it here soon. I'm 14. How can I prepare for basic in 4 years? Stay in good shape. I mean, it's still a long ways away. Usually comes down to like the last year or two of really knuckling down and studying a little bit to make it easier, being in great shape and all that stuff. But at 4 years out, I mean, you got a long ways to go. I mean, you can start getting into shape now and then just try to maintain being in good shape throughout that time, and it might be helpful. But otherwise, it's really going to come down to like the last year or two or whatever to really kind of be helpful. All right, so we are at that hour kind of long time period. By the way, if you have not already liked the stream, make sure you hit that thumbs up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through the chat, see if I can't find an older question that's a good one that I missed. We'll cover that, and then maybe do one or two more new questions, and then we'll move on, and then that'll be the end of the stream. So give me a second to kind of go backwards in the chat. Let's try this one. Chris, if a soldier is married and away from their family, but the Army transfers them and their family, who transports the family, and how does that exactly work? So you all usually move together. So if you're talking about you have a married soldier, but they're away from their family, I'm not sure what that part means. So like the family doesn't necessarily have to come with you, but you're still gonna have to live off base because they don't allow what used to be called geographic bachelors. They used to allow soldiers they were married to live in the barracks if their family didn't come with them, and they don't do that anymore. They are rid of that. So even if your family stayed back, and let's say you're from California and you got stationed in Kansas, and your family wants to stay in California and you're going to go on to Kansas, well, you still have to get a place either on base or off base, and you're going to use that BH for that, but then you might also still need to use some of your paycheck to help pay for their rent back in California. You don't get like double BH or anything like that. You're just kind of stuck with the one, and you got to make the best of it, and you're kind of a crappy situation if that's what you want to do. Now, if your family comes with you, let's say to Fort Riley, and then you come up in orders to go to, let's say, Fort Carson, right? Well, the Army pays for that move. You go and you can either choose to move yourself. That is, if you want to go and pile everything into a U-Haul, drive it from Fort Riley, Kansas over to Fort Carson, and then you submit all your receipts and everything like that, and the Army will reimburse you for everything, and then even a little bit extra because they add in food and other things that you had to do along the way, and gas and everything, and a few other things. So you make a little bit more than what you actually paid because of other reasons. So you can do it that way, or you can choose to have the Army move everything. So you can have the Army go and they contract a moving company to come pick up all your stuff, and they move it to your new location. You can choose to have them move, ship a vehicle. You can only ship, I think, usually one, maybe two. I think your limit's only one, but I'm not 100% sure on the vehicle limit. But they'll ship those vehicles for you, and then if you want to drive it, you can do that too, and they'll reimburse you for the gas, and you do it that way. If the duty station's overseas, same thing. You can fly to that location, they'll ship your stuff, all that stuff. So your family goes with you, the Army pays for that move if you're married. If you're not married, they're not going to pay for like your girlfriend to move with you or anything like that. You have to be married for that to be able to be a thing. All right, so let's see, what do we have? Maybe one or two more new questions, and then we'll be cutting off here. What are some things limited to you as a green card joining the Army? Limited job, can only be stationed, etc. I don't know all of them. Some of it is that if you're just a green card holder, I don't believe you can get I think you can't get a security clearance. So if you want an MOS that needs a security clearance, you probably won't be able to get that job until you have the U.S. citizenship. I don't really know all of the ins and outs as far as what the limitations are, though, with having a green card. You'd have to probably talk to a recruiter on that one. Hey, I live in Utah, and I was wondering if that has effect on a basic training. No, where you're coming from does not. It's more about what basic training locations have slots available for someone to go into, and as well as what your MOS is going to be. So that way, if you're doing basic training and then you need to go to AIT, they need to try to time it to where you're going to be able to graduate basic training and then go to the next available AIT slot. They don't want to have it to where you're going to graduate AIT and then the next AIT for your MOS doesn't start for another 2 or 3 months, and then that kind of screws up some stuff. So they kind of have a lot of things they have to factor into that. Maybe do one more question, and I'll probably be ending it out. Let's see. I see a question. Some people have statements in here, which are awesome and all, but I'm looking for one more question. Just a good one. This probably won't be the last question. I'll probably still do one more after this one. I see someone asking, ThatChrisChaos, have you ever heard of, was it Sweets Color and Army Barbie? Y'all should do live chat or some type of podcast. Y'all are the top 3 best Army YouTubers. Well, thank you. I have seen some of their channels. I've never communicated with them or anything like that to have any kind of like friendship relationship to be able to communicate and be able to set anything like that up. But I'm not usually against that. I mean, I don't really mind people who are pretty active on like YouTube and creating stuff to collaborate and do things with them. But I've seen some of their, I've recognized the names, and I'm pretty sure, I believe I've seen some of their videos before. I guess this will be the last question because we got to cut this off here. Can you try Ranger when you are 1 year in the infantry? Yeah, you can even get a contract to go directly for Ranger. You can get the, was it option 20? No, I don't remember for sure what option it is, but there's a specific option to go directly after OSIT to go to RASP, and you can do it that way, or you can wait to get to your unit and requests to go to RASP, and sometimes that can be a little competitive because if there's like other people who want to do that as well, and they only have say like 2 slots to be able to send someone from their unit to RASP, and there's like 5 people that want to go to RASP, well then they're going to make it a little bit competitive, and they're going to go off your PT scores and a lot of other things that as far as who they feel is most likely to pass and not waste their time sending them. So then it gets a little bit competitive there. So a lot of times the best way is to try to go directly into it, but it just depends on kind of your personal preference. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and end this live stream. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Like I said, if you have not already, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up, and all that stuff. A couple of videos planned for the week. I still got to kind of finish throwing them together though, but hopefully the plan is on Wednesday, a new series is going to be debuting. Something I've kind of already tested the waters on, and it did pretty well. So this was an idea I had for a while. This video that I had that was testing the waters was just a random thing that kind of came up that seemed like a good idea to try out, and it did well. So I have a couple of episodes that I still have to edit together for this new series to try out, but hopefully Wednesday this new series will be coming about, and you guys can kind of see that and see what you guys think about this new series. It'll be an addition to all the videos and stuff, and then maybe hopefully a video on Friday, maybe a video on Tuesday, I don't know. We'll see what I can kind of get together for the week and get you guys some good entertaining, educational, and all that kind of fun stuff, content and all that stuff. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. You guys are awesome, you guys rule. So I will see you guys on the flip side. See you guys next time. Have a great night. See ya.